Welcome to the Cambridge Financial Podcast with Bert Salazar, CEO at Cambridge Financial Partners, LLC. This podcast is all about tax-preferred retirement planning, economics, financial risk management, and achieving a risk-free and successful financial life. Now, your host, Bert Salazar. Bert Salazar. Bert Salazar.
Hey, good day everyone. My name is Bert Salazar and I am the host to the Bert Salazar Retirement Show. So welcome once again. I'm excited to be here with you and to have you all be here with me as well. Today's episode is episode number 143 and the name of the episode is Retirement Paradigms, Managing Retirement Risk in the 21st Century. So this is the title of my newly published book, which you can find on Amazon. Just put Retirement Paradigms and you'll see my book there. You can download it as an e-Kindle for $9.99, or you can buy the actual copy of the book. When you go into your search, just put Retirement Paradigms paperback if you rather have a paperback, and it'll be $18.99, and the money is well worth it because of the amount of information and education that you'll find there. So today what I want to do is I want to tell you a little bit as to why I decided to write the book, especially after 30 years as a retirement strategist and tax planner. And I do have a second book now that I have just started writing. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. But I'm going to discuss why the book and the importance of the book and what it can do for you and your family from a retirement perspective. And then I'm going to talk about one of the critical chapters of the book and in a way that I think you'll find it interesting, but it's going to bring a tremendous amount of value to you once you start reading the book. So obviously, I spent 18 months of my life, the last 18 months, putting this book together, and then obviously you got to send it to have someone take a look at it and make some minor changes and so forth and do all the graphics and then go through the Amazon KDP process in order to get your book published. So there's a lot of work that has to go that I had to go through in order to publish my book. But one of the questions I get asked is, Bert, after all this time, what made you decide to write a book? And one of the main reasons for that, and I'll give you some of the others, but one of the main reasons is that I've been talking to many clients over the past 30 years, and over the last 10 years, I started getting more and more involved in the online community. So I've been doing a lot of videos, and I do podcasts. So that's the one that I'm doing here for you today, which, we've done. This would be the 143rd episode. So we've been doing this, for quite some time. And people gather information and people gather education and they gather knowledge. But a lot of people just, go away and they fail to act upon the things that they should be doing for themselves and their families. So I felt that if I put something in writing, that I can promote to each and every one of you, that you can actually go through it, and if you can read it chapter by chapter, you'll find that the chapters are designed in a way that one is going to lead to the other and to the other and to the other and so forth, and it's going to make it very, very good for you and your family from a reading perspective, because it's going to give you the preamble as to the benefits of preparing for retirement and to do so in the right way. Now, another reason why I decided to write this book is because it provides a financial blueprint for Americans preparing for retirement. There's a lot of retirement books out there in the marketplace, and there's a lot of information that you can find on the internet. But like I always say to all my clients and to all my online community, information without education always leads to failure. So yes, you can go online and you can find all kinds of information, but at the end of the day, how do you apply that information to your specific circumstances? And that's where education comes into play. So the other reason is that, this book also addresses the misinformation of financial pundits. And there are a lot of financial pundits out there in the marketplace and they're always providing a lot of misinformation or half answers to half questions and not full answers to critical questions. So that is one of the things that I wanted to pay attention to as I started to do the blueprint for writing this book. Another reason for writing this book is that it provides a conduit for financial understanding, and there's no sugarcoating. So I'm always going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly in everything that we discuss. And this financial book that I have put together for all of you does provide a conduit for financial understanding, which goes along with education. It also addresses retirement from a risk management perspective, and this is something that you're not going to find in any other retirement book that you're going to read out in the marketplace. 99.9% of financial advisors, as they help their clients prepare for retirement, they do so from an aggressive, from an offensive standpoint, but they don't do it from a defensive standpoint and or from a risk management perspective. And when you start looking at your retirement life and the things that will more than likely happen to you and your family in retirement, you're going to be thanking me quite a bit because of the fact that you had the opportunity to read a book that would cover financial and retirement from a risk management standpoint. Now, another major thing and theme as part of this book is that it allows a reader to think outside of the box. It allows you to take a look at all your financial decisions and all your assets and all the stuff that you have around you as you prepare for retirement, not only to look at it through a microscope, but also to look at it through a telescope, which is a totally different view, as you have, heard me say many, many times in these podcasts that I do every single week. This book also provides decision control in your personal economy. Once you read this book and once you understand it, you can no longer make excuses, because any financial decision and every financial decision that you're going to be making in the future now will be based on factual and economic theories that are there for you to be able to apply to each decision-making process that you're going to take moving forward into the future and for many years to come. And then last but not least, the Retirement Paradigms book tells a whole story. Especially a good friend of mine just did something very nice on Facebook. I gave him the book before I sent it to publication because he's one of my best clients. He's very knowledgeable. He's got a couple of master's degrees, so I wanted him to take a look at it and to go through it with a tooth comb. And he did something very interesting. After reading the book, he gave me a couple of pointers that were very well taken. But, one of the things that he did for me, and I can't thank him enough for that, is that he took the liberty to write a one-pager on the front page of the book. And the front page of this book, according to him and according to the way I feel about it, tells a whole story because it shows a couple walking down a road, walking down and taking steps to better the retirement, to prepare for the retirement, to do all the things that need to be done in order to have a successful retirement life. And then at the end of that road, there's a guiding light. And the guiding light represents, having a blueprint in place, having something that you can look up to. And when you're in the middle of the ocean on a dinghy with no paddles, and you're trying to figure out which way you want to go in your personal and your financial life, that you can see this guiding light in the distance that you can focus on and start going toward that guiding light, because if you make it there, then chances are you're going to survive and you're going to do well for yourself and your family as time goes on. So I can't thank him enough to pay attention to the front cover of the book because it's something that brings home the whole blueprint and the whole thesis behind writing this book. So I want to take a few minutes. I want to cover one of the most important chapters in the book. And this is a chapter, the name is funny, and I try to do that because, obviously when you're discussing financial matters, things can become a little bit intricate, and most important, they can become boring at times. But I wanted to do something for all of you that you can get some fun out of it, along with information and education. So the title for this chapter is Never Bring a Knife to a Gunfight. And it's a critical chapter in the book. Now, all the chapters that I have written for this book, and it's 189 pages on the book, were designed with a purpose in mind. The information, the education, the telescopic view of challenges and opportunities, and a retirement blueprint are taken into account in every single chapter of the book. Now, what I like about this chapter in particular is that it accentuates the daily fight between the average American, their money, their financial decisions, and major entities in the United States. And that's a daily fight, and we fight those every single day. You're fighting them every single day. You just don't know what you're fighting for and who you're fighting. So I'm going to, in this chapter, I kind of bring that to the forefront so you can take a look at it and understand it. Now, the question is, all of these fights that you're having, who are you doing the fighting with? Well, you're fighting with the major entities. And then the next question would be, well, Bert, who are these major entities that I'm having a fight with every single day of my life in order to protect my money? And the entities are the government, financial institutions, and major corporations. Now, I always say that only a fool parts with his money happily. So only a fool parts with his money happily, or at least in a happy way. And the reason for that is that most people pay no attention in their personal economy as to how they're spending their money. And if you don't pay attention how your money is being spent, then how are you going to figure out how much money you're going to need in the future, and how you're going to set sail in order to put enough money away for you to have a successful retirement life, for the rest of your life. So only a fool will actually part way with his or her money happily. Now, let's break down the three major entities. So we got the government, we have financial institutions, and then we have major corporations. Now, what does the government do in order to get you to separate yourself from your money? And now always remember that you have to understand the rules of engagement, because every single day of our lives, we have no choice but to deal with the government, we have no choice but to deal with financial institutions, and we have no choice but to deal with major corporations. But if you understand the rules of engagement of how to deal with them and what it is that makes them tick, then at least you're going to be able to get into that gunfight and have an equal shot. In other words, you're not going to be bringing a knife to a gunfight. You're going to be bringing a gun. You're going to be bringing a shotgun. You're going to be bringing the entire 2nd Marine Division with you, because at least you're going to be prepared from a financial standpoint as to how to deal with that. So let's get into the governmental entity that is very critical for all of us to understand. Now, once again, the question is, well, how does the government gets me or gets you to separate yourself from your money? Well, they do it in many different ways. Federal taxation, state taxation if you happen to live in a state that has state income taxes, county and city taxation. I lived in Boston for many years, and we had all of those taxes. And if you live in New York or some of the other states, like California and many other states throughout the country, you'll be paying state income taxes along those lines as well. FICA and Medicare taxation. Those are additional taxes that most Americans don't pay attention to, because whenever you ask an American, what is their tax bracket, the only thing they're giving you is their federal tax bracket. They don't take into consideration all of these other taxes that have a negative impact on their net income at the end of the week, at the end of the month, or at the end of the year. So capital gains taxation, and there you have long or short-term capital gains. Dividend taxation. Regulations, you would say, well, how do regulations impact my tax liability, Bert? Well, in a couple of ways. The more regulations that companies have in order to produce the goods or services they sell, many times they have to increase their pricing in order to offset those additional costs of regulations, or the cost of regulation. So that additional increase in pricing becomes an additional tax to you from a business standpoint. Inflation. Inflation is a silent killer. Inflation is a silent tax. So the more the U.S. government prints money, the less your money is worth. So that means that every single year your money is going to be able to buy less and less of the goods and services that you may want to acquire. So that's a silent tax on your assets. So that means that you have to either earn more, you got to work harder in order to offset that inflation liability. Governmental expenditures, and obviously we see that every single year. I mean, today's January 20th, and it's Inauguration Day in the United States, and now we're going to have the Biden administration taking over. But by the way, both parties are guilty. I don't care if you're a Republican, I don't care if you're a Democrat. Both parties are guilty of excessive governmental expenditures. And then Social Security taxation. I bet you never thought that you would pay taxes on your Social Security benefits. And for most of you, unless you've done proper tax planning and proper provisional income planning, most of you are going to find yourselves having to pay taxes on your Social Security benefits upon retirement. So if you don't pay attention to the governmental entity, if you don't pay attention to the impact and the negative impact that governmental entity can have on you and your assets, then you're going to be parting ways with your money in a faster way than you could ever imagine. And at the end of the day, you're going to find yourself, like I said before, in international waters on a dinghy with no paddles. So now let's get into the second entity that is always trying to get at your money. Financial institutions. Now the question is, well, how do they get at your money, Bert? And they do it in many different ways. Now, they're always creating financial products. And also remember that any type of product that is created in the United States is created with a profitability issue in mind. No product is created by any institution, I don't care if it's a financial institution or a major corporation, that it doesn't have a profitability margin already assigned to it. In addition to the financial products that financial institutions are putting together with a profitability in mind every single year, there are also seen and unseen fees that Americans are paying every single year. Surrender charges, sales charges, money management fees, whether you win, lose, or tie. Can you imagine that you put money into a mutual fund portfolio and you're paying 1.5 to 2% to fund the charges for that fund, and that means that the money manager is going to be collecting that fee in order to manage your money. And that money manager is going to make money. They're going to get that 1.5 to 2% fee, whether you win, lose, or draw. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to them. Now, obviously, they would want you to win because the higher the winnings, the higher the percentage that they're going to be collecting, and the higher the fees that are going to be coming into the mutual fund company. But even if you lose 20, 30% in the market, they're still going to be collecting that 1.5 to 2% fee based on the account value on a quarterly basis or at the end of the year from that perspective. And by the way, welcome to the U.S. I mean, and that's how these things are done in the U.S. when it comes to your investment portfolio. So you have to be very cognizant of the fact that, less than 15% of money managers in the United States ever beat the indexes. So why would you want to pay a 1.5 to 2% fee on a compounded basis to a money manager that most of the time is not going to be able to beat the indexes that you can get for almost nothing? So that's where all of these financial institutions are finding ways in order to get at your money, whether you want to or not. refinancing fees. I mean, take a look at every time you're doing either a first mortgage or you're refinancing a mortgage. Take a look at all those internal fees. Take a look at your telephone bills, all of the fees that you're paying, all the usury charges, which are additional fees. They just name it something different to get at your money in every which way that they can. So, those are things that we as Americans need to pay attention to, because it amounts to thousands and thousands of dollars on an annual basis unless you pay attention to it. And I would argue, and sadly enough, that most of you don't pay attention to these things. So the leakage that you have in that financial boat, if your boat is sinking, what are you going to do? Is it better for you to take a bucket and start just taking water out of the boat and trying to see if you can fight that before the boat finally sinks? Or would it make more sense for you to plug the holes, and then once you have the holes plugged, then you can get a bucket and pull the water out? So, that's just common sense from an economic perspective. And then the last point that I want to make here is the third entity that we deal with on an ongoing basis, which are your major corporations. And again, they design products that we all have to use, So what I'm saying to you is that whether it is a government, financial institution, or major corporations, we have to use their products every single day. But you have to understand, what the rules of engagement are in order for you to benefit from that usage and not become a statistic to them for their own personal business and their own personal advantage. So when you look at major corporations, the design products that they put together have a scheduled lifespan. Now, most Americans don't understand much of a lifespan, because that's a way that the economic world works. You want things that are going to eventually break down, so you can either fix them or you are going to replace them from a business perspective. So that's something that you need to pay attention to. Now, there's also a lot of product competition for your hard-earned money. So companies are always competing with one another. Take a look at the. Let me get a little bit of water. Take a look at the world that we live in right now. Every single company every day is coming out with a new product that is going to offset the other product that another company came up with just a week ago. So design products have a scheduled lifespan, product competition for your hard-earned money, advertising designed, and this is a critical one, advertising designed to separate you from your money, which is something that happens every single day. By the way, the average American on a daily basis is being exposed to 5,000 different advertising opportunities. Now, many of you don't see that many of them, but just turn on your TV. Just drive down the street, walk down the street. Everywhere you go, there's going to be a sign. There's going to be something that someone is going to try to get you to buy from them. If you use social media, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, many of the LinkedIn, a lot of those are companies always trying to motivate you to move in their direction in order to purchase their goods and services along those lines. And then what all of this does is creates financial confusion. And when people are confused, they either do nothing, which in this case is not something that normally happens, or they make the bad decision, or they make the wrong decision at the wrong time for the wrong reasons and under the wrong set of circumstances. So the more financial confusion there is in the marketplace, and the more financial confusion you have in your personal economy, the better off that the government, financial institutions, and major corporations are going to do in order to maximize their internal rate of return while minimizing your internal rate of return in your personal economy. So when you look at all these things that I talk about in this chapter, and I also give you in this chapter some of the things that you should be paying attention to and what to do in order to minimize that leakage that I've been talking about is that if you look at the government, financial institutions, and major corporations, many times they are primarily a cult of the American economic system, which actually hinders performance for many, many Americans throughout the United States. See, many of the products and services that are being sold in the U.S. are in relation to what the government is doing to those products and services, what financial institutions are doing to those same services, and then what major corporations are doing to those services along the way. So many times they're actually working in cahoots with one another in order to create viable opportunities or opportunities that we as Americans think are viable. And by the way, there's always a good side to all of these products and services that are being created. The challenge is that most Americans don't know the difference between the good, the bad, and the ugly, so they're taking all these products and services at face value without having the opportunity to actually drill down and identify, what are the challenges and the opportunities within each product and how to merge them together, but by the same token, how to minimize the exposure to that leakage, that financial leakage that is coming out of your personal economy, which is going to hinder your performance not only now, but for many, many years to come. So once again, if you're interested, and I would encourage each and every one of you to go on Amazon and just look for Retirement Paradigms, and you can download the e-Kindle version, or you can buy the paperback. The graphics are tremendous. You're going to love the graphics in the book because it's going to make a lot of the points that I cover in the book very clear. And then in the next week or so, I'll go ahead and talk about another chapter in the book, and I'll do a few chapters just to give you more and more information, because at the end of the day, you're part of my online community. So for those of you that have any questions regarding this topic or any topics that we have talked about in the past, please feel free to reach out. You can call me at area code 786-766-1042, or you can send me an email at Bert, B-E-R-T, at bertsalazar.com, BERTSALAZAR.com. And always remember that my goal for you, for your business, and for your family is to kind of help you change the way that you look at things, because when you change the way that you see things, the things that you see change. So once again, thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time. I'll talk to you again next week, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.